Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Empower Hour. I am really, really happy to bring you my next guest, who is also a queen mother, my comadre, bestie, wonderful, beautiful friend, powerhouse of the universe. And she's going to answer a lot of the questions people have that continually ask me about philanthropy, giving back. How do you give back? How do we get involved? Well, you asked the questions. I'm bringing you the answers. So everyone, please meet my bestie, Miss Dana Valenzuela.
Thank you, Gina.
And look at the colors she's wearing today. And she dresses like this with a pop every single time I've seen her. Like, you're always put together, literally every time I see you.
Oh, thank you.
And I want that coat. So
any day.
Dana, 3 adjectives that describe you. Go.
Ooh, loyal. Fierce.
Yes.
Fun.
Yes. And an amazing dancer.
Thank you. This is so much fun.
That's true. This is why my podcast is fun. It's true. Okay, Dana. So before we get into philanthropy, which I'm so excited for you to share, because you actually are instrumental and have been instrumental in teaching me about philanthropy and what it really means and how people can be involved. Tell me about little girl Dana, where she came from and what influenced you.
Sure. I grew up in Monterey Park.
Ooh.
I am Chinexican, Mexicanese, however you want to say it. My mom was born and raised in LA. She's Chinese American. My dad was born and raised in LA. Mexican American. And with that, it's like a little bit of everything. My dad grew up near he went to Belmont High School. And my mom went to Garfield High School. They met when they were at LACC. That kind of informs who I am, because they were a little bit hippie. They were a little bit outside the box. You know, my dad was a surfer who grew up in, hardcore
Really?
surfer. Yeah.
Wow.
And my mom, was a rebel. She got married when she was 19. She knew him for 4 months.
Stop.
On a blind date with my aunt. The blind date was my dad and my aunt.
No. This podcast is now about Dana's parents.
Let's talk about it. I remember turning 19. I was like, okay, the next guy I date in 4 months, I'm going to get married.
Wait a minute. What year was this?
Oh, this was the 60s.
Okay, so
64.
Not only is that whole relationship and how they met interesting, that era in which they met was not very supportive of
no, they weren't.
Minorities like Chinese or Mexicans.
Or family members.
Oh.
Not necessarily.
Within your own culture.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. If you don't marry Mexican, something's wrong with you.
There you go.
Or Chinese.
There you go. My mom's side was, because it was just my grandparents and my mom. They were, what could they do? She was 19. She went and eloped in Vegas. What are you going to do? And my mom's an artist on top of that. So just, layer it. My dad's family, there were feelings. There were feelings they didn't agree or accept.
Because she was Chinese.
Because she was Chinese.
Oh, man. And that's still so prevalent today, unfortunately. Yeah. But we're breaking through it.
We're breaking through it. And, it's really, I think, this generation. I have a lot of friends. I did not grow up speaking anything but English in the house. Because my parents grew up in an era where you don't speak Spanish in the house. My dad would get his butt kicked if he spoke Spanish outside. So he was, hell no, I don't want to do that. So that informed, right, who I am. So other people, as I was growing up, told me, oh, you're Mexican. I am? I'm like, my house is more Chinese.
So you identified more Chinese growing up?
100%. Because my parents split up. I was 5.
Okay.
My dad moved up north. And so I would see him, summers, that type of thing. So I grew up with my mom and my Chinese grandparents. So I 100% identified more, which is hilarious, right?
Love that.
I grew up, my house, I feel is a little bit, now it's really eclectic, but I think I grew up, there's Asian artwork, there's, take your shoes off. There's just certain things that were prevalent and that we did. And that I realized that is more of an Asian style. And I didn't know that. I just thought it was home. And that's how I grew up, and I had, when I went to public school in East Los Angeles. And at the time, kids were bused from all over. So a bunch of my friends were from Sherman Oaks.
Huh.
I was the dreidel, right? So it was like, you know, everything was that we were learning so much.
Yeah.
You know, I was learning about Jewish culture. I was learning about, you know, I had Black friends, I had brown friends, Asian friends. Like it was everything. And so there was this real like melting pot of you know, Americana in the early 70s, for, you know, for better, for worse.
Where was this? In Monterey Park?
This was in East LA, Monterey Park.
Really?
Yeah.
What school?
Robert Hill Lane, right across from
Yes.
Elac.
How progressive.
It was a, gosh, I don't know what you call it. What do you call it? I don't even remember the word. Like when they're like advanced or something like that. I don't know.
Which tells me you were an advanced child.
I was.
Tell me about that part.
Which part?
The advanced child part. You excelled in school?
Yeah, I did. And then I went on to private school. So I was in public school and then also advanced in being social really early. Shocker.
Excelled in that.
Shocker. Yeah.
You are a social butterfly.
I am.
And this is why you are so good at your job.
Yes.
Okay, so you go to Monterey Park Elementary School. Then you go where to high school?
I went to a very small private school. My mother did that intentionally to take me out of the neighborhood, so to speak, so that I could learn, you know, another way. And I think her intention was always to help me understand that I was going to belong wherever I was. Right.
Okay.
So when you talk about imposter syndrome, I remember feeling that really young. I mean, I went to school where kids, you know, had elevators in their house, you know, and had lots of, the father would open up the garage and say, okay, which car should we take today? The Bentley, the this, the that, you know. And I was the kid who lived on the other side of the tracks. You know, it was a Volkswagen Squareback all the time.
Yeah.
That was the choice all the time. And yet they were my friends. We found the same things funny. You know, we liked the same fashion, the same music. I mean, this is when MTV, gosh, I sound old. This is when MTV was, you know, and so it was like, you know, we were glued to MTV together. Yeah. So it was just really finding the similarities and all the things that, it wasn't about money.
Right.
It wasn't about money.
Okay. And then how did you get to college? Where did you go? What was that experience?
I went to St. Gabriel High School afterwards. I went to a public high school.
Why?
Because I begged to go to public and not private. And my mom said, okay.
Why do you think you did that?
Social. I didn't want to go to an all-girls school. I didn't want to go to a private school. I wanted a big school experience, which was what I wanted in high school and college. I wanted a big school. I got it. I mean, there were, I don't know how many people in my graduating class, 900, something like that.
And that was a good decision?
It was a good social decision, and it was a good, good decision. You know, when I look back, and it was the decision for me, I learned a lot. You know, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about friendships. I learned a lot about, some of my very dearest friends I still have.
So good.
You know, and I see people still from high school, and it's always good times, you know, if I run into somebody or something. So it was a good thing. Academically, I was mediocre. Mm-hmm. I could have been better.
Okay.
I didn't apply myself.
Okay.
You know,
acknowledgement is fine.
Yeah.
Accountability is everything.
Absolutely. You know, I was the only friend that would get in trouble because I got a B or a C. All my other friends, you know, they'd still be going to parties and stuff. I would be the one in trouble.
Okay.
So then I went, and then what I did is I got accepted to a lot of, this was me though. I definitely don't say this for everybody else, but This was me. This is what I knew about myself, is that I wanted to go to a big school, and I didn't want to go to a state school and call it snobbery, my own version.
Yeah.
You know, I accept that. So right out of high school, I got accepted to Cal State LA, and I got accepted to Northridge and some other schools. And I said, no. I don't want to go because, and this was, I remember saying this, I was like, who am I? 18 years old saying, I want to be somewhere, anywhere in the world where I don't have to explain my college experience. And that was it. That was my reasoning. And so I went to Mount Sac for 2 years. I got everything out of the way, and then I applied to all the schools I wanted to go to, and I wound up going to UCLA.
Interesting. So you had the foresight and realized, okay, if I just make this investment my way, go to Mount Sac, which is is it a community college?
It's a community college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get everything out of the way. Let me get into a big name school.
Yeah.
And you did that.
Yeah.
Pretty smart.
And let me go on scholarship and bring up all those grades. And I went to a school where none of my friends went so I could focus.
Yeah.
And I did.
And you did it.
I did.
And you applied yourself there.
Yeah.
And then so you go to UCLA, and then what?
It was great. I worked the whole time. And the whole time through high school and through everything else, the through line is I was again, nothing that I, suggest other people to do. But I lied when I was 14 at the time. I wanted money. Because I was social, and my mom, I wanted to learn how to drive, and I wanted to do all these things. And my mom was like, you're going to have to pay for gas. And I was like, ooh, how am I going to do that? So I got a job. I was 14 and a half. I've been working since I was 14 and a half. At the time, you could work when you were, I think, 15. Yeah. But I was 14 and a half. I got paid $3.50 under the table. I worked at a flower shop.
Nice.
And I was rich.
Yeah. But you were a self-starter. You were super independent. This was like, well, I'll do it myself then.
I'll do it myself. I'll do it. And it was also, my mom, was a single mom. I was, we don't like to put labels, but the experience was I was a latchkey kid, right? So I spent a lot of time alone, and I realized like the things that I wanted to do. And so I worked all the time, and then I would, get another job, and I worked in retail, and I worked at a hair salon forever and ever, hence, all the different color hair in my life and all that kind of good stuff. And I remember very vividly, I was like 17 years old. I worked at a hair salon at the Montebello Town Center at the time, which was like
love there,
so bougie.
Love
at the time. And I remember looking through a Vogue magazine and reading like all of the social pages. And I remember saying out loud, I want to go to a gala. I want to be in it. I want to do that someday. I want to go to New York. What is this? How do I do this? And cut to another part in my life where I worked with the editors at Vogue magazine. I was going to New York City. I was doing all of that. So all of that, like little baby manifestations, when you're young, it's when you look back, everything where we are right now is because we planned it.
That's it. I know that. Right?
We didn't, and maybe it didn't look, and I say this all the time, especially where I work, it doesn't mean it goes A to B. A, B, C, D. That is in the fairy tales. That's in a 2-hour movie where everything goes like that.
Yeah.
Life is more like A, Q, B, C,
3,
B,
14,
B.
Yeah.
And you get there. And I think, and then, having the privilege of, age, right? Yeah. And looking back, it's like, hey now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see that, to look back and be like, I get it.
I did it.
But at the time, you didn't know that you were doing
I didn't know I was
anything.
No.
Just running around trying to just
trying.
Yeah.
Just trying.
And it felt like trying.
Like and sometimes it was also failing.
No.
It was trying and failing, trying and succeeding, trying and stumbling, trying and, cuckoo jobs and crazy jobs and interesting people along the way. Some I never, ever, ever want to see again, and nor should I.
Same.
And
Samesies.
Yeah. And some that you're like, okay, that was kind of interesting.
What a great interaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I met you when I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to get to the good stuff. Not that that's not good. I met you when you were at Children's Hospital Los Angeles.
Yes.
Tell me how you got to Children's Hospital.
So,
and what were you doing?
Yes. So Children's Hospital Los Angeles was also one of those incredible blessings, truly, in terms of timing. Divine timing, always. I had worked in for-profit and had done public relations and marketing for 16 years. Had my own business for 10 of those 16. Mm-hmm. I had purposely decided that I needed something new. I couldn't talk about lipstick or mascara or pants and what celebrities were wearing one more moment because I thought I was going to poke my eyes out. Like I outgrew that part of my life.
Great. And you got it out of your system.
I got it out of my system. I did it, and I did it really well. And then it was time for something else, and I didn't know what it was. So I had worked at a small nonprofit, cut to meeting people, saying yes to everything. Just, yes, I'll take this meeting. Yes, will somebody meet with me? Yes, yes, yes. Even when I didn't know what the meeting was going to entail, even if I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah.
And so I had worked at a smaller nonprofit and met someone who was involved peripherally, and she was one of the vice presidents of the foundation at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. So she recognized my hustle, right? I was doing at this small nonprofit, it was me. I was raising money, I was writing grants, I was planning events, I was doing all these things, but I didn't know how to do that until I said yes, and I was like, oh, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, and I have lots of stories like that in my career. And so got to Children's Hospital Los Angeles with 3 years of experience in nonprofit, and was then working on several different initiatives. And one of the initiatives by the great Rich Cordova was to really focus on philanthropy in the Latino community, because there wasn't anything like that happening at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And we know that there are other hospitals that are doing that. And we had been told time and time again, and I had been told time and time again, that Latinos don't give.
They haven't met our group, have they?
It is a horrible, racist,
Very.
I'll say it.
I'll say it.
It's a racist stereotype that Latinos give to church groups, and then all they care about is their family. When we know, right?
Yeah.
That we care about community and whatever it takes. Time, talent, treasure, all of it. And so it was one of those things like, okay, let's do it. And I think along the way, and I do believe that the individuals that come along your path are also, we'll call them angels, call them whatever, for however time they're going to be in your life.
Right.
They're put in your path to learn and to do, right? And so, it's going to be hilarious when RC has it. Like, he was an angel. Yes. He was put in my, right? In the timing, like, you do this. And I was like, looking around like, isn't there somebody else that could do this? Oh, me. It's me.
You're talking to me?
It's me. I'm the one who's doing it. And so that is where I started. And so I was blessed to get to know your father. And then small world, right? Then we find out all the small world notions that my mom and your dad went to high school together.
Nuts.
And then I get to work with your mom. And that was really the entree, another angel placed in my life.
Big time. Doing
big things, right? Like helping really strengthen the commitment, of a community to a community, right? Really, really to support the families at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We know most are Latino. It's a snapshot of Los Angeles.
What's the percent?
It's over 70. At the time, I think it was over 75.
Yeah. And I'm on the foundation board at Children's, FYI. And I know the number's probably grown a little bit more than when you were there.
It's a snapshot of Los Angeles, right? It's just...
very Latino.
It's very Latino. It's where we are. And so it made sense. And so I got to know your family, through through that journey. And I knew that something special was happening when Rebecca would say, it wasn't like, would you like to come? It was like, you're coming to my daughter's baby shower. Okay.
Rebecca's my mom. Oh, and when she tells you you're doing something,
you do it. You figure it out.
The people that have gotten very far by doing what she says, understand. If Rebecca says you're going to be here and this is what you're doing, and it's not even a question.
No, it's not a question.
But she knows she's doing it for the right reason because she's like, you need to be in that room.
Yeah.
You need to be in that room.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to hold up a mirror right now.
Right?
That's you.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah, it's true. And I knew that I felt like I had been vetted, that she decided that it was okay that I could know her and her beautiful friends, but I could also know her daughters.
Yeah.
And that's been a really beautiful, and also just kind of like this really fun moment in time. And I tell all my, besties from high school, I needed younger friends because y'all are old, right? They'll kill me. But it's nice to be considered in all of the circles.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, I think it's really important to also know is that philanthropy is about relationships, right? And it's about communication.
Mm-hmm.
It's about connection. And there are a lot of different ways to do that and to go about that. I'm a mission-driven fundraiser, right? I really care about the health and well-being of children. That is that can bring me to my knees and could bring tears immediately when I think about,
I know.
It's like that is what drives me.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this, for the music center or for another like a environmental group. I love them. I want to support them, but that's not what drives me.
How did you get there? How did you figure it out? Because this is part of my conversation with so many people.
Yeah.
How do you find your fire? How do you find your passion? And it's the same thing. And how did you get to that?
That's a really good question. And it's a lot of introspection. It's really paying attention to the things inside of you that make you forget about time. Where you're not a clock watcher. Where suddenly you're like, where did the time go? Because you're researching something, or you're learning about something, or you're sitting in a room and before you know it, you're like, it's over, because you've heard things. That's when I knew that every time, especially at Children's Hospital, I remember being around some kids that just lit up, that there was a spirit, there was, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, that there was something so special about this human that was being put in front of you that you got to experience, and you were like, this is a gift.
Yeah.
This knowledge that they're dropping, and how can this 8-year-old know, right? But this 8-year-old is actually nearing the end of their lives, and they know.
Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
And it was like, whoa, how can we need more people like that? Like, how can I help? How can I help that? How can I help people like this? Who are those people? Are they Latino people? Are they Asian people? No, they're little people. They're just little. They're kids. And it has nothing to do, with race or gender. It has to do with the human spirit and it being cared for and loved. And so that's when I figured out that was really my jam.
So then you get to Children's. So you're really on the ground level, helping the children, helping the hospital, setting up these initiatives. Tell me more about the project you were working on that Richard Cordova put you on, and what happened with that.
So we came up with a name, and worked with Los Compadres at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. It feels good to say that.
So good.
And it was pretty remarkable in the sense of how many people we were able to drive to Children's Hospital Los Angeles. People that are now super famous. The Aguilar family, Gerardo Ortiz, Chiquis Rivera.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we had so
She was
many
there.
different people
Mhm.
that were coming. We did a quinceañera,
I remember that.
right? So we did quinceañeras on site and off site for people who were really interested. And it was interesting because we had people who wanted to support who weren't necessarily Latino, but
Allies.
identify, right, and love
Like
allies, like Mike, like people who just love the culture, right? And so, and I could identify with that because I'm Asian.
Yeah.
All of the things. So it was like the more the merrier, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
So that was, I think the life cycle there was about 3.5 years. I was there for 6 years.
Okay.
Maybe it was 4 years that we were doing Los Compadres, and then it was time for me to move on.
And what happened to Los Compadres?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll have an episode about that shortly.
Yes.
So, okay, you leave Children's, and then what?
I leave Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, and I was offered a position to run the philanthropy, the fund development, the marketing, and like the social impact for a social services agency in Los Angeles called St. Anne's Family Services. St. Anne's Family Services has been in Los Angeles for 115 years. And they specifically started by helping women and children. It was a maternity home back in the day. And it's got some Catholic roots. What I find the most interesting about St. Anne's Family Services is that we don't turn people away. And like Children's Hospital Los Angeles, right? And the focus, and what I learned and then realized is that the health of children isn't always just like what's their temperature and do they have a broken leg, right?
Yes.
The health of a human is a whole human, right? And they might be able to run and jump, but if there's now they call it toxic stress, and if there's other factors that are happening, if there's abuse, if there's neglect, if they're not getting food, if they're not getting attention, people don't talk to them. There are a lot of ways that then you see people and they lose a connection, they lose that. And that, I don't want to see that. And then it's again, it's that drive, like what can I do? Like what more can I do? And it just so happens that it's a place where young women who are in foster care, like in the 80s when adoption changed and private adoption changed, where women could make a lot of money to put their children up for adoption if they looked a certain way. And then at that point, this is where I'm like, ooh, those sisters were kind of badass. And I'm going to tell you why. They could have closed. They said, we don't do this anymore. But they said, who needs our services? Who still needs this? And it was women of color and it was women in foster care, young women. And every service from there, because again, looking at the whole person, it's like, well, they need more than a home, right? Now you need mental health care. Okay, well, if they need jobs. Okay, well, who's going to take care of the kids? They have a job, so early childhood education. So all of those services have been born out of that. And what drives me is just knowing that every person who works there, whether it's somebody who's in maintenance or housekeeping staff, up to our CEO, care. They want to be there. It's a choice. And everybody has their own reason. Everybody has their own why, as why St. Anne's or why whatever job. What I see is that this year alone, we had more young women graduating from college, right? We had a couple, graduating from high school. I know that education opens doors. It's something you talk about all the time. Those opportunities. Most importantly, it's their kids, right? Their kids are seeing their parents work hard and go to college. But we're already creating a routine, right? The things that they need so that they're safe. So their trajectory is already different than their parents. And so they can launch, right? They can launch and they're going to be okay.
Right.
So I can look at a mom and she might not be she might not like me, and we might not see eye to eye, but I could see her kid and they're healthy and they're doing everything and they're talking and they've got, their motor skills and they're verbal and they're communicating, and it's like, they're okay.
They're okay. They'll be fine.
Okay. They're okay.
They can function in society.
They're going to be fine.
So what does at St. Anne's, what does a profile look like for people who don't know about St. Anne's?
Sure.
And what does the profile of the typical person you help look like? You've mentioned mom and children, but walk me through the way you did because I did a site visit, which I encourage any of you who are interested to do as well. You gave me a tour and a site visit, and it was so enlightening because I just thought, oh, it's a home that helps moms who are borderline homeless and their kids, period. That sounds noble, but it's so much deeper than that. Yeah. And you educated me to that. What does the average profile of the people you serve look like?
Okay. So for our flagship housing program, for those young women who have been in foster care, they have come to us because they have either been in the juvenile justice system, or they have been, or I should say, they're in foster care, and about 90% of them have been trafficked.
Sure.
So they don't necessarily know. This isn't a reason to be upset with anyone, right? They don't often know enough about their bodies to even understand that they're pregnant, what pregnant means. Wow. Because depending on what kind of a foster home or situation that they've been in, they literally, there are times that there are girls who have never been to school.
Oh.
Okay.
Oof.
Right. We've had situations like that where they don't understand what a period is. They don't understand what's happening with their bodies. And depending on how old they were when they started being molested, that's a normal thing. So there's a lot of unraveling. There's a lot of mental health stuff going on there. So it's deep, right? And then we have a transitional housing program. And so for that program, that's young women between the ages of 13 and 18. And
that come to you.
That come to us.
And live there.
Generally, they don't want to be there, right?
Why not? It's help.
Well, depending on where they were, and especially if they've been, that's the whole thing about learning about, sexual exploitation, is that there's so much brainwashing that goes on that seems like love. That seems like home. That seems like a good thing.
That's all they know.
Because that's all they know. And because, they're going to get me a new purse, or they're going to get my nails done, or they gave me money.
Yeah.
That seems like love and care, where we have, structure, and you're learning how to take care of your baby, and you got to know you can't have visitors, and, so they don't like that.
Oh yeah. The rules.
Yeah, the rules. And they're teenage girls. Girls don't like rules, So there's that.
Wow.
Then we have, so it's deep. That's a 24-hour program.
And just quickly now, because I have questions. You don't force them to stay. If they want to leave, they can leave. Or how does that work? Because they're minors.
They're minors. So there's all sorts of technical things that go on. So they're supposed to have, when they're not in school, they're supposed to have a chaperone, one of our chaperones. So it's basically like they have someone with them all the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so when they don't, or they get a pass, a pass from their social worker, from their DCFS social worker, their Department of Children and Family Services social worker, so they can have maybe a pass to go visit a grandparent or something. They'll get a pass, maybe a Friday, then they could come back on Saturday or Sunday. If they don't show up at the time that they're supposed to show up, then we have to report them as, missing or a runaway. It's a whole, there's a lot. Yeah. So
this is a whole, and I mean this genuinely, this is like a sub world. It's a completely different world that functions, that has its own terminology and problems and answers that none of us in regular society.
Yeah.
We see blips of it on the news, like, oh, that's terrible. You hear about trafficking, that's child abuse. You hear the blips. We all feel it's terrible. But St. Anne's is the epicenter of not dealing with, but addressing those problems and processing.
And a solution, and really like looking at it from like a solution based.
Yes.
Like how, okay, we can give them things, we can give them a home, we can give them clothes, but really like what at the core, how can we protect their children from that happening again? Right? How can we protect them? How can we help them? How can we, as we always say, it's not giving a hand out, it's giving a hand up, right? We want to raise them up.
You see what I mean? How she teaches us? Because, and I mean that, like the terminology in and of itself, we say, oh, we give handout for charity. No. It's a perspective shift. You can't look at philanthropy and charity as just throw some dollars at some people. No, this is a solution-based, change your perspective. We are here to help up, to be a part of the solution.
Right. And it's little things, Gina. I mean, me and my ideas. So, like we own mothers here in Los Angeles. We do a mother's event. I'm like, we should do a global mother's event, every year. And because we celebrate mothers, right? And it's mothers from all of our programs, not just our housing programs, but now also, our mental health programs and our community programs and early childhood education programs and just everything that we do to serve families. And I'll never forget this. This is one of those indelible like moments. We had volunteers, it's all volunteer based, and we gift our moms like these beautiful, it's like swag. It's like you get at an event, right? And so we gift them, and we've got so many amazing partners, and the partners who help us put on our gala turn around and they help us decorate and do some really great things. But this was like our first year, and we had some CEOs and everybody's volunteering. And at the time we did like a sit down dinner. We had gowns that were donated, and we just really made it like a gala for our girls. And at the time, I was told that we needed to use paper products for the girls. And I said, why?
What do you mean paper products?
Like, paper plates and, plastic cups. And I was like, why? Well, that's what they usually eat off of them, because this and that. And then maybe there might be, sometimes, this is also a home where there's, sometimes not all the girls get along.
Oh, no.
And that's okay. Right. But they were like, well, it could be dangerous. And I said, okay, how about we use the glass? And if it's dangerous, there's going to be a big group of us. We can mitigate that really quickly. There's going to be all of the different, folks, who work with us, who are trained, professionally on how. I'm not the one to break up fights.
I will be directing.
I know they'll be like, Dana, get out of here.
Yeah.
Because you're RBF, my resting bitch face is going to get everybody in trouble. They're like, get on out of there. Yes. So, cut to, we have, china and glass, and a young woman who was new to the program, who had been in different group homes, I guess, in her lifetime. We had a CEO, a big kind of strapping dude, and he was serving. He's like, Dana, come here first. I'm going to need to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. Oh, no. Yeah, that's what I did. I said, oh no, what's going on? I said, everything okay? And he has tears in his eyes. And I said, oh my, what did these girls say to you? Thinking, oh no, what did our girls say, right? Who snapped back, right? And he was pouring her lemonade, and she said, is this for me? And he said, yes, this is for you. Would you like lemonade or iced tea? And she said, I've never drank out of a glass before.
Oh my God. In Los Angeles, California, United States of America.
In the 2000s. Yeah, this was pre-COVID. And yes, yeah, that's what's happening. That's our world. That's what's happening alongside our world, right? And girls and women are often, we know about a lot of the other, charities that maybe, really focus on men or young men who are in social services, or some of the really horrific things that you hear about, maybe about foster care. It's been, dominated by like male stories.
Right.
Their are women and young women and children who are right alongside, who are not getting the same kind of love, that are not getting the same kind of attention, aren't getting the same kind of dollars, right? Aren't getting the same, that just aren't getting the same. And I want to break through that. You know, that's one of the things that I saw right away, right? Like, and then the idea of, they look like me, right? Our CEO is African American. I'm the chief development and mission officer. We walk down the hallway and we look like our girls.
So do I.
Right? We do. And I
know.
want them to see that. I had a young girl ask me one time, "Excuse me, miss, what do you do?" And I said, she goes, "Well, what is that? What is that?" You know, and I said, "Well, I work with, donors, and I talk about the great stuff that we do here." And she says, "Well, how could I do that?" I said, "You go to school." And I said, "Take my job."
Yeah.
Do it.
Take it.
This is for you. She's like, okay. And I said, "Come on, let's do it. Let's go. It's all about access. It's all about seeing.
Yeah.
Right. I was seeing when I was looking through Vogue magazine, right? That was my version of seeing, and then saying yes. And my mom putting me in private school saying, "You're going to see that," and me sitting around different, tables and realizing, oh, I'm the only female here. Oh, I'm the only person who looks like me here. What am I doing here? I don't belong. Shut up. You're here.
Yes.
I've been there. So, and I came from a loving household, and, and I'm educated and still have had those feelings. So then I think about like our girls, like, oh my goodness. And then we want them, everybody's like, oh, they just need to go to school. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And so the way that St. Anne's Family Services work is that we're in the in-between, right? We're in the in-between. Our teams are working with them. We have education navigators, we have activities coordinators, and activities coordinators aren't just like, oh, we're going to plan this. It's actually like also to understand like culturally, that because somebody looks different than you, it's not a bad thing. And if you're going to be interviewing for a job, right, that person might be, so
yeah,
come on, let's learn about it. Let's do it. And our workforce development program is off the chain, right? We started it at St. Anne's Family Services. We were the lead. It's now something that is in LA County, LAUSD, but it started at St. Anne's with the curriculum, because it's a very, very, particular curriculum, because it's not just about resume building, right? If you haven't had a model to see every single day, get ready for work, right? Put their makeup on, or show up on time, or call if something is wrong, or, or if there's an emergency, those types of things. Those are the things, especially as we work with moms, right? Their kids are going to get sick. So you have to call out. You can't just not show up.
So you teach them the etiquette of working.
Everything, the etiquette of working. It's everything. Etiquette of keeping a home.
I remember that on the site tour. How many people live there, by the way?
So between everything, we have about 75 on our main campus, and then we have 40 at our permanent supportive housing, where we have families.
So I got to see one of the apartments that a mom and a child lives in, and you said something that just I would have considered it. Again, we live parallel lives, but their universe is just so vastly different than anything we could ever understand. You said, well, we teach them everything down to you put the milk in the fridge for your baby because you don't want it to spoil, or you heat it up and you don't want to heat it up the wrong way because they didn't have a parent to teach them this. This is something that all of us, most of us listening, kind of saw someone or learned the etiquette of life, the etiquette of a home, the etiquette of being a mom, the etiquette. And there's no right or wrong way. I'm just saying they didn't get the most basic instruction on you clean your bathroom, you wash your clothes, you wash the baby's clothes,
it's the basics. It's the things that we really do take for granted. And for any of the moms out there, right, that are momming hard, or even, you know, any of the single women out there, right, with their own apartment or their own home, right? You know that keeping your own place is, you know, it's something that we potentially pride ourselves in, and teaching our kids to like pick up, or like, we're going to make our bed, or, you know, the things that, you know, the song, the everybody clean up song, or whatever it is. Those little chores, right? We call them chores, right? Or that we learned, really do shape a life. And if you don't know how to do that, life can get really difficult.
Absolutely. And you get left behind very quickly.
Right? Because you've got other things happening.
You're just trying to survive.
And so while we do remove those barriers, and we really want to be, I see that also, that we do, like, we're barrier removal, right? As much as possible, because we know that there have been a lot of barriers up to there, and we know there are going to be more barriers after. So the time that they're with us, we really want to focus on how healing begins, what it looks like to have a safe home, what it looks like for it to be safe for you and your body, your mind, your child, you know, your environment, all of it, right? So what safety looks like, so that they can build on that.
It's beautiful. And so before we end, I know Mike and I were honored this year by St. Anne's I still don't know why anyone would honor us, but I appreciate it very much, awesome, because it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing to us, but because we're like, it's our responsibility. We're supposed to help people. But at that dinner, you honored one of the graduates of your program, and her name's escaping me, and I apologize. She's in
Cheyenne Rogers.
Can you please quickly just recount Cheyenne's story and where she is today? Because that just floored me. And if you need any more convincing why you should support and look into St. Anne's, this story will do it for you.
Thank you, Gina. Cheyenne was a teen mom, had been in foster care all of her life, had been in group homes, had, spent time with a grandmother who got too elderly to take care of her. And she had a boyfriend in high school, and got pregnant. She was a teen mom, wound up at St. Anne's. She was interested in going to St. Anne's because she had no place else to go. She was couch surfing.
How old was she?
I think she was 16.
Okay.
And so she was doing
pregnant.
And see, the whole thing is that homeless, right? Let's back up a little bit. When we say homeless or unhoused, a lot of times we think of the encampments that we see in Los Angeles, right? But there are actually a lot of other definitions of homeless. It's couch surfing, it's living in your car, it's, going from friend to friend's house. And it's also in the city of Los Angeles, I believe it's 2 to 3 families living at one address.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so she had been couch surfing, right? And she was exhausting those friendships, and she has a lot of spirit in her, in the sense of like, she's a go-getter, right? She's like, what do I need to do? Because this whole time she was also, even though she was in foster care, she always had good grades, was always a straight A student, right? So that was in between, not knowing where she was going to sleep, or B, she knew how to do her homework and show up. And so cut to, she comes to St. Anne's Family Services.
With the baby.
Actually comes pregnant, and then delivers, and then lives at St. Anne's. Was, from what I understand, not the easiest person. And she says it herself.
I think she said it. She said she was kind of tough to deal with.
She was tough to deal with. She was also one of those who read the bylaws and read their rights. And if she felt that somebody was not doing something, she
advocated for herself. Yeah.
She's an advocate for herself. We support that.
100%.
We do, right? Even though we might go, we support it. So she graduated high school on time, and then went to undergrad at UC Riverside, got accepted to UC Riverside. Our teams moved her and her daughter to a dorm that we found for her and that she helped find, that she could live there. She graduated and applied to law school, and she is at the University of Connecticut working on her, this is her, I think her last year of law school. She's interning this summer.
Jesus.
She's, at first she thought she was going to go into family law and work really around foster care, but she's actually trying a lot of different and interning, I believe, at a business law and litigation. She's looking at everything to really, she realized on her own that she didn't want to just go into something because that's all she saw.
So smart.
She wanted to try other things. And so she's doing that. She's a rock star.
I mean, success story. There it is. St. Anne's. A direct result of St. Anne's is that story. And I hope one day she will be on my podcast. And obviously I'm a mentor to her whenever she wants it.
Absolutely.
So, okay, how do people reach you and St. Anne's, please?
So they can follow us. They could start by following us at St. Anne's Today on our social.
Spell it.
It's ampersand. At the at sign.
What's it called?
Ampersand? Or no, I don't know.
I just say
the at symbol. No, the ampersand was and. Cut that. It's at, and it's STANNES Today, TODAY.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you find us on Instagram.
And how do people find you?
They can find me. They can always email me, dvalenzuela@stannes.org.
Can you spell that?
I
want to make sure people get to you. So
D as in Dana, Valenzuela, VALENZUELA @STANNES.org.
Dana, thank you for advocating.
Gina.
And I know it's your job, but I also know you're in it, and I've known you. And so I know like you live, eat, sleep, breathe, and are so passionate about advocating for the voiceless. And it's an honor to be your friend because I'm, birds of a feather, but truly, you truly inspire me, and you keep me very focused on the goals and the ideas around philanthropy. And I hope that this podcast as well helps direct a lot of people on their missions as well. So
Gina,
I love you.
You are the best. We need more of you and Mike in the world, and you're amazing. And thank you for inspiring and doing this and sharing with so many people.
I love you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I love you. Mwah. High five.